Thank you all. I'm so excited to see the DPC family again. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about forging healthy communities at the local level. But before I dive into the local level, I need a clicker. I want to talk about what you've been hearing all morning, right? And so really it's about building community, and it starts here in this room, right? And so as practice owners and business owners or staff within the practice, a lot of you always call me and be like, I want things to happen fast. Like they need to happen now, right? And this is true of many of my consulting clients, a lot of the members that I've talked to, the client accounts at Hint, they want the patients to start enrolling like yesterday. Their marketing to work quickly, right? The new team member to be hired and trained and already anticipating the customer's needs without really understanding what DPC is. And they want all of their systems to be working like properly and integrated and talking to each other. And I just want to remind you that there's like this real sweetness in going slow, right? It gives you an opportunity to fix things. I could see Charlotte, I'm like, we talked about this. She's like, oh my gosh, like everything's happening so fast. And it's like people are funneling through, but yet we haven't tested this. We haven't gone through our patient experience. We haven't tried things, right? So it gives us this opportunity to fix things. Gives us an opportunity to make mistakes, to fail, like our keynote speaker was talking about this morning. It gives us an opportunity to also determine if we're in alignment, right, with the way that you want to practice. Not the way that you think you should be practicing, right? Because a lot of you have come from corporate employed, like, I think I should be doing it this way still. And so if we can slow down and actually allow ourselves to be in response to what's happening around us, we can really start to build and craft our dream practice. So these same people oftentimes who are wanting to go fast, what happens, right? They're making mistakes. Many times, a lot of mistakes. And then they try and fix the mistakes with the same thinking that got them into the mistake in the first place, right? So maybe you're in a rut, maybe you're banging your head against the wall, and they're thinking that they're going fast, but the reality is, you're probably just correcting mistakes and going a little bit slower than you anticipated. So today we're here to talk about community. And that's that concept of like, if we want to go far, we have to go together, right? And so this means asking for help. And if you've joined one of my courses previously, you'll know that asking for help is actually a superpower that you have because you get to learn. And again, I feel like I'm just repeating what you guys have been hearing all morning from the speakers that are on the stage. And the most beautiful thing is that so many of you in this room are willing to like help each other, right? Whether it's an official capacity of a mentor, if you've got a trainer, if you're working with vendors who have experience within these realms. I mean, I feel really gifted. I think I'm like the first non-physician to be on the stage without a physician, but I've been doing this work for 15 years, right? I know how to craft infrastructure. And so what I want you to explore today as we talk about building community is who in this room do you need to talk to? Like who at this event can you actually connect into and learn from their experiences so that you can actually go farther, so that you don't have to make the mistakes that the people that came before you maybe did. Some of you, like Dr. Bliss, right? You didn't have a roadmap to go through. He was making it up as he goes. The beautiful thing is there's thousands of practices that are doing this now. And you can literally utilize the frameworks and their talents, skills, and abilities to help localize the movement in your market. So again, asking for help gets to be your superpower because this is really where we meet this place of endless possibility in what we can create together. So many of you have this one thing in common. You went to medical school. You didn't learn about how to do business, right? And now you're opening your first practice, or maybe you're growing it, you're hiring your team, you're building your systems, and you're sharing what you're up to in the world, right? With your community, with potential employers, with your colleagues. I think Dr. Yarmi was saying this morning, like some of my friends don't even know what I do still. And so there's several people, again, here today who have either been where you are, just getting started, like some of the people I've already talked to, or there's people who want to be where you are, right? And so this is one of the most exciting parts about being in this DPC community because all you have to do is ask for help. And so many people are willing to do this. And what we know is that successful business people and even sports athletes, right, have all leveled up because of their mentors, their colleagues, their coaches, who've given them the sight before the sight of the thing that they don't even know to expect, right? And they help position them in this level of really getting successful and achieving greatness in their lives. And the truth is that most everyday people, or very few everyday people, actually want to excel in business or life or in their passion. But that's not true for many of you in this room. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this. And so what I'm asking you to consider is investing in yourself. And you have. Most of you have already started your practice. Investing in yourself, whether it's time, energy, money, whatever that might look for you. Because at the end of the day, you are your greatest investment, right? And if that type of investment scares you, I'd argue that you may have problems enrolling patients into your practice. Anyone want to take a guess why? Because you're asking them to invest in them. They're literally your mirror reflection. You're asking them to do something that they've never done before and to give you money in a way that they've never transacted with a primary care office before. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be dollars you're investing in you. It could be time, energy, resources, whatever that looks like. And I guarantee you, when you start doing that, the world will start responding a little bit differently to you. And so there are plenty of successful people that have never had a coach. They've never had a mentor, and they've done really fine. So you don't have to take my advice on that, but there are plenty of people that also have. And so just want to talk about a few of them here. This guy here, anybody know who his mentor was? Want to take a guess? Close. That one's coming. Warren Buffett. What about her? Barbara Walters. Some even say Maya Angelou. This guy? Michael Jordan, right? Learning from the greats. Somebody said this already. Mark Zuckerberg? Steve Jobs, right? Why not ask the leaders that came before you for the answers that you're searching for? That's why they're here. And I believe personally this is where forging a healthy, local direct community, direct care and direct primary care community actually starts. So this is how we get to support the direct care community, right? Many of you, again, have been the first ones forging the path for everybody else. Some of you are actually following leaders in your community who have already done this and have proofed the concept, right? And so the reality is, what this means is that all of you still have a job to do, and that's educating the general public on what direct primary care is and how it can actually be of benefit to you. So, in my mind, the most important exercise for you all is having community. Having a community and a space where you can actually start to use your voice, where you start to share who you are and what you're up to in the world, why direct primary care may work for the people that you're looking to work with in your community. This is a group of my Thrive participants that happen through the HINT community. I've seen a lot of you. Feel free to raise your hands, because I've seen a lot of your friendly faces in this room. And one of the beautiful things about this is mentorship's not just about you learning. I think the actual magic happened when I wasn't talking. It was when these guys were sharing their experiences. They were sharing where they were winning, they were sharing where they're failing, they were sharing where they were challenged, and some of them even still talk to each other this day as they were growing their practice. And I would argue that the majority of the people that completed this program are still in practice because they had the support of the community in getting them there. And so this type of mentorship really helps people start to navigate the complexities of DPC, because again, there's no real rule book of how this thing gets to get put together. It helps them boost their confidence, it helps provide support so they're not having to feel like they're going it all alone, right? And so my invitation for those of you who have been around for a while, if you've got space and capacity, find somebody that you can help support. And for those of you that don't, and want to have a mentor or a relationship with somebody in this room, please reach out to them, ask, and the DPC directory has a pairing process if you need support along the way. So again, just several resources out there that are available to you guys as practitioners in this community. And once we start to build this foundation of a healthy direct care community, you gain your confidence, you got your clarity, then it's all about bringing it to your audience, right? And the biggest way about doing this is building trust and awareness. And so you have to actively engage with your local community. So many of the practices I talk to are still sitting behind their office door. They're not going out there, they're not sharing their voice, they're not exploring like what their neighbors are doing, right? And when they do, oftentimes what they try and do is sell who they are and what they're up to instead of building what you all want, which is a relationship with your patients. It's no different, whether they're buying from you or they're your neighbor next door or they're the patient that you're taking care of. People need to know who you are, what you have to offer, and why DPC might be a good fit for them. So we can do this online, right? You can do it in person. And if you're not sure how to get started, I like to tell people, emulate until you can innovate. There are plenty of people that are walking this path before you that are doing a really awesome job. And so let me share with you a couple of quick examples. This guy here, who just introduced me, right? Obviously, if you didn't see him before today online, you've now seen him on stage. And Dr. Boucher has been sharing what happens in the four walls of his clinic, of course, with confidentiality. But those questions that he gets in the exam rooms are the same content that he's sharing for people, because guess what? Other people have the same questions. It's kind of ingenious, right? And these are the expert secrets that people are looking to you to share. So now he's building this know-like-trust factor, both online and he does events, so in person, that allow him to generate potential patients coming into his practice. And he's building awareness in his community. Then there's this guy who I saw a little bit earlier. I think he's in here. Tanner Moore. He was one of our students too, but he's diving into the local business world, right? He's been jumping on LinkedIn. He's all over my feed. He shows up consistently, confidently, sharing his story, connecting to local businesses. And he's even partnered with somebody that I know to start doing cold calling and got like a meeting with the CEO to go for a walk around a lake, right? Not to sell him anything, to learn about him, to learn about his needs, to learn what he's up to and how they might be able to support each other. This is my DPC doc at a BNI meeting, so again, in person. And I wanted to share this one because a lot of times when I tell people or advise them to join like Chamber of Commerce or BNI or these organizations that are already together, like, I'm not getting anything out of this. Well, what are you giving? If we are in a give to get culture, we're not gonna get what we actually want. We get to just give to give, right? And so then she fosters relationships. Now she's selling out her practice because the focus didn't become on sales anymore. It turned into relationship builds, right? And so whether you're in person or you're online, it's not about selling. It's all about relationships and building awareness. After all, nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to be cared for. And when I interviewed a ton of you that came through the Thrive cohort, one of the things that you consistently said was, we want our patients to feel heard and seen. That's all you have to do. That's all most humans want, is to belong. All right, which is why we get to focus, not on sales, but on engagement and education, right? And it gets to be informative for folks. And so we do this a couple of ways. We do this through health talks. We do either free or one-time consultations. You can attend local events, right? Because when we do this, what happens is we start to become more visible. And in turn, we become more approachable. And in turn, people start to trust you, right? And you build your relationship. You build your offer. We also do health fairs, sponsorships, digital platforms. So I am a sales girl. I am not a marketing person. And so a lot of people will be like, oh, you guys are a marketing agency. I'm like, I'll show you how to grassroots market, but I don't do SEO, I don't do pay per click or any of that kind of thing. My clients excel at doing boots on the ground type of work. And so there was one woman in our Thrive cohort who went to a farmer's market. And at the farmer's market, she had an expo booth, and her daughter was with her, and they had candy, and the little ones like being all curious, talking to people, passing out candy to all the people that walk by. And so she was thrilled with that, because she's like, you know, I'm not an extrovert. This was awesome. My kid was doing all the work, right? And where her biggest impact was in actually talking to the other vendors that were there, because they were small businesses. They were trying to figure out how to provide health for themselves and or their small employee base, right? And so sometimes the thing that we're looking for is usually right in front of us. We don't always see it. And so it's a great way to connect with your community and start to be seen, right? This is one of our clients. His name is Tom Duncan. We converted his practice. He didn't land up in terms of numbers where he wanted to be. And so for him, he had a whole lot of time on his hands. And he's like, holy cow, what am I gonna start doing? And so he did what he asked all of his patients to do and started taking care of himself. And he started documenting it. This one on the end is him at the yoga center. He checks in at the center. He knows everybody there. He had some patients that were interested in ketamine therapy. He went to that therapist's office. He gets a ton of referrals from her now. And then on top of it, he also posts on the gym, and like there's a million other places. But then he won this Best of award this year. And it catalyzed the growth of his practice, because now all these people knew him. Right? They trusted him, they liked him, they saw he was walking his talk and doing the things that he's asking other people to do. And so we also do things, again, for community health talks, presentations, like how do you share something with people? We know heart disease is the top killer of Americans. How do we educate people on their risks? Right? So we put together presentations, we do CIMTs where they can actually have a peek into their vascular arteries. Like, how do you actually start to support people in primary care? And so many of you say, you know, I take care of everyone and I do everything, which makes sense, but people don't search for how can I get everything from my doctor, right? They're looking for cardiovascular health, they're looking for thyroid problems, they're looking for hormone replacement, right? And some of you have those areas of focus, and I'm not saying that you can't take care of everybody in the wide spectrum of things, but focus on some targets that you really enjoy working with, right? You'll attract the people that you want to actually be with. And then I want to give you an invitation to make your doctor's office more than just a doctor's office. You get to make it a place for health. Right? It gets to become a community hub where people get to feel better. And so if you start to reach out, and I'm going to talk about partnerships here in a second, like there's ways that we can bring health and empowerment and education into the practice for your patients too, right? So we have some clients that do online stuff. They do town hall meetings, they do book reviews, group visits, so that you're feeding the one to many, so you're not having to do the one-on-one. And even oftentimes, we ask them to invite their friends and family to these events, so they can have an experience of something different that's happening at their physician's office, their primary care office. And if you can't do it online, you could take it to the streets or the track. I have a doctor that I've been working with for almost 8 years now, and he asks his patients to walk 10,000 steps a day to remain healthy. And in order to do that, he actually shows up at the track every Thursday night and walks with a group of patients. Some of them run, some of them jog, and oftentimes, because even though he's not seeing a ton of patients a day, he may run late. And there's 2 women that lead the group for the rest of the patients. And this is really the catalyzing moment of like what community can actually do, where it's not just you having to do the work. Right? And this is why it leads us to partnerships, right? Aligning with the right people, aligning with the right community can really be a game changer in your practice. So how do you do this? You look for businesses that are sharing the same values as you are. Wellness centers, gyms, again, like I said, like you meet them at the farmer's market, because these can be your potential allies. They can reach new audiences. You can provide different value for people. I mean, we've had yoga teachers come in and do Zoom meetings. Like, what is it that your patients want? Like, we talked about the power of surveying this morning. Like, what else can we give them outside of the four walls of your office? Because now when I go to another business, it's like, hey, I've got a cool thing going on here. How can we start to work together? And ultimately, a lot of times what we're seeing is that those businesses actually start enrolling their own employees into the practice. And it's not me trying to go and sell something to you. It's about how do we organize and create the ripple of health in our community with all of our services aligned, right? So start by reaching out with your mission. What is it that you're here to do, right? How do you guys get to work together? Co-hosting events, offering extended services. This is a client that we worked with. We put together a wellness program. So at the end of their first big appointment, they would get a booklet. Inside of the booklet, it included discounts to things like 24-hour fitness, right? What are we asking our patients to do? How do we help leverage their dollars in a way that's meaningful and actually start to support the downstream costs, not just here, but in specialists, right? In PT offices, in chiropractors, with the specialty doctors that don't know what we're doing yet, right? How do we show them that cash services are offered or they can offer cash services and that your patients are interested? I also met with these guys, Health Me, when I was at Rosetta Fest a couple weeks ago. I think it was like 2 weeks ago where I saw a lot of you guys. But they're putting together a network of folks where you can send referrals. Like they started in the ortho space, right? So there's tons of innovation that's coming through in order to help support you and your patients really start to make the most of their dollars at the end of the day. We've also seen one of our students in Florida. He's a mobile pediatric guy, and he partnered with a mobile internist that was also in the group. And so she takes care of the kids, she takes care of the adults, he takes care of the kids. And then his wife had recently had a baby, so pelvic PT, sending them patients all day long, right? All you have to do is start connecting the dots. It's not hard, it's right here in front of you. Just figure out those creative and innovative ways where you actually start to move together to create the ripple of health and community that you actually want to do. If your mission's like, hey, I need to pay my bills this month, it's not gonna work as well as like, hey, I wanna actually create a healthy community for my kids, my family, for everybody that I know to live in, right? And ultimately, like in my belief, community is really the new currency. People wanna belong to something. They really do. The one thing I forgot to mention, I was with Dr. Bushman when I think it was last year in Oklahoma. I got to go out and do an operational assessment with his clinic. But one of the things that really impressed me was I'm always like, talk to the water guy. Like if you've got a guy that delivers water, like talk to him. He should be enrolling all of his employees. And literally the water guy came in and was signing up his family members. And I'm like, this is awesome. Then we went to lunch and they're like, I think he said hi to like 4 patients in the lunch area. He's out in the world, right? He's out connecting with the people. You have to be a staple in your community in order for it to grow, in my humble opinion. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you so much for trusting me. For those of you that came through Thrive, for those of you who watched my lessons, super excited to be up here and be with the DPC family. Thank you. I know we did have one question on the app about branding and how important that is for community outreach. I think you want people to build the awareness of who you are. So having a nice brand that people can recognize is a bonus, right? It's helpful. You want to be like Nike, like they've got a strong brand. People see a swoosh, they know what that is. So again, if it aligns with your vision and values, absolutely. But for me, saturation, right? We talk about people seeing things between 5 and 12 times before they're actually buying. It could be a really pivotal choice in terms of what you're doing. And so I don't know if there's anybody else that had a question. Was that you, Zach? You good? Okay. Awesome. Thank you all.